As many of you probably already know by now, during Chapter 2 there is the hidden boss fight with Spammed Neo, containing the yellow soul transformation from Undertale. But now, it's in Deltarune, with the same ability as the original soul color, which was being able to shoot, but now with an added ability being the big shot, which is just a bigger version of the shot but more powerful. It is safe to assume that most of the remaining secret bosses will have a new soul transformation, the same as Spammed Neo did in Chapter 2. So what would the new extra abilities be for the remaining soul traits in their respective boss fights within the secret boss fight? Well, that's what I'm gonna plan out and hypothesize for today. So before we start this process, I need to set some ground rules, since it's safe to say that the yellow soul transformation in Chapter 2 sets some sort of standard for what the future soul transformations will look like. So I've come up with 3 rules. So the first rule: the change to the soul has to make sense with the ability it already gives. For example, the yellow soul just has the big shot, which is very similar to its regular shot. It just has to make sense, obviously, it has to add on to it. Secondly, the change to the soul can't be that big, since in Chapter 2, all the yellow soul gained was the ability to fire a bigger shot. And that's really easy to understand. I think, especially when it's used in one boss fight, the gimmick has to be easily understandable so you can understand how to beat the boss, especially in these hard boss fights that expect a lot from you. The third rule, is the gimmick has to be able to be utilized a lot and well in a boss fight. You don't want a gimmick that's like never used. Like the big shot, like a lot of people use that as their primary fire during the boss fight, which is really and it should get a lot of use. Obviously, there's a reason it was made. So you don't want something that never gets used or is like kind of useless. That's all the rules I think that I'm setting for what I'm making now. So it's time to predict / come up with new soul abilities for each soul. So let's start off with the blue soul. The blue soul is definitely the soul color with the most new ability concepts. There's a lot of Deltarune fan games out there that use the blue soul as a gimmick. Rightfully so. It's definitely the most interesting gimmick, with you having gravity and being able to jump over things. So a lot of fan secret bosses have these, and I've seen 2 main concepts, being a double jumped, or like a ground pound / fast drop. I'm going to be honest, these are both great options for a new ability for the blue soul, since they fit its already existing abilities really well. And I'm going to have to choose one of the 2 abilities. So let's look at the 2 options and analyze them, as I feel that I go back and forth between deciding which one is better for a boss fight. So I think it's really interesting to look at these 2 and decide which one's better in my personal opinion. So let's start by looking at the double jump. This has been used in fan games a lot, as I've already mentioned, and it's probably the most prominent one used, since it does really fit with the integrity soul, which is the blue soul. And I think it does fit all the criteria. This soul is commonly used. I think an example of this is in the Upper Hand fan game, a very popular one. It's pretty new. It's pretty cool. And it could be utilized pretty well. I feel like it really fits all the criteria. It fits with the already existing blue soul mechanic, which is like jumping and having gravity. And I think the boss fight, though, would have to be really focused on like more platforming, because I think that would be like really utilize the ability of the double jump, would be like platforming gimmicks to dodge bullets in certain ways. A double jump doesn't add much to bullet patterns really, unless there is platforming involved, and I think platforming would make this boss fight really stand out and be unique, and would be a cool twist. Of course, it already fits with the existing double jump, and it could be utilized very well in general. Let's move on to quick drop, which is what I'll be calling the ground poundish ability, and I think this also fits all the criteria. It already exists, it already adds on to the blue soul's current gimmick, fitting with the theme, and it's not a big change either. Much like double jump, it would be easy to very understand. You just probably hit down to move down faster. This would also be used a lot in a boss fight. It's like a QOL feature almost, that could constantly be in use. Much like double jump, if quick jump is picked as the blue soul's gimmick, I think it will change how the boss fight will turn out. With a quick drop option, that can make it so there's faster bullet patterns that you need to quick drop and dodge through quicker, which I think is really compelling, because these boss fights are really meant to be hard, and I think that could be really cool. So let's come to a verdict on the blue soul. Double jump and quick drop are both very compelling options, obviously, with double jump leading to a probably easier fight, but a more compelling and unique one, with quick drop leading to a harder but less unique fight. I think I would be open to either of these options. I think they'd both be great in their own way, or even a new concept. But I'd lean to more towards double jump, because I think it would really stand out as a boss fight with a platforming gimmick, which I think already fits the Blue Soul in general, because I think the Sans fight doesn't really do much with platforming, which I think the Blue Soul is almost perfect for. And I think it's more unique than a harder fight, but either way it's great. And yeah. So let's move on to the next soul. The Green Soul is up next on my list here. And there aren't many Deltarune depictions of this soul. The Blue Soul definitely has the most out of all the soul colors. And so I'm going to have to really come up with one on my own, kind of. Now, the Green Soul stays stationary, as you probably know. And you have to block projectiles that come at you from 4 different angles. Left, right, top, up, down. And I think it will be interesting how the Green Soul works in Deltarune in the first place. Because, canonly, Undyne gives you a spear to block the attacks with. So I don't know if your soul will just by its will just summon a shield to be able to block attacks, like it did with the shots in Chapter 2. I think the Green Soul, similar to an Undertale, will probably not be for the whole boss fight, because I think that would be kind of boring in all honesty. So it'll probably be a mix of both Red and Green Souls in the fight, unless a big change happens to the soul. One option for the Green Soul is just giving it 2 shields and making you have to block in 8 directions. However, I think that's a little boring, to be honest, and not a very interesting new gimmick, because it's just more of what already exists. Instead of an ability, I think maybe should be done with the attack patterns almost, a more unique idea. For example, what if during the attack you had some green attacks that heal you, not for a large amount, but you have to let it pass the shield instead. However, this should be really high risk, high reward with you, or lower reward, because blocking attacks is already very strong. With you having to quickly let them in, or take damage, you would just take more damage than you would have already taken than you would have healed. This does fit with the rules, as it can be used multiple times in the boss fight. It would be easy to understand, I think, with just green attacks coming in and you have to let them in instead of blocking them. And I think it's kind of cool to have something just change with the bullet patterns rather than the Green Soul. And I think the Green Soul is definitely the hardest one to have a new gimmick for, because it's kind of just stationary and blocking attacks, you know? The Purple Soul is probably the least interesting soul trait in Undertale, in my opinion, where you're just stuck on 3 to more lines and don't have full access to movement, only being able to travel across the lines. This is definitely the soul trait that is probably the hardest to come up with a new ability for, since it's hard to find an ability that would fit well with it, since you're just traveling across lines. I honestly don't think there's a great ability I could come up with the Purple Soul. If you had a better suggestion, I'd love to hear it. But I really would like to see the main gimmick really expanded on. I think the Muffet fight really kind of lets down the Purple Soul. It's a little boring. I think if the Purple Soul is used, though, it should be cooler line patterns and new areas you can go to, like completely different different levels that I don't know, would just be really cool. And I think it would be cool to have a boss fight that really utilizes it. However, if I did have to come up with a gimmick for the Purple Soul, I think it would be a way to make it so you drop down a rope in between lines, a vertical rope. I don't know how exactly this could be executed. Maybe you press the Z button to drop down a rope in your location and you can travel vertically for a bit. This gimmick does follow the rules, by the way, with it being able to be utilized. It's pretty simple and it already fits with the line gimmick of the Purple Soul, so I think it fits pretty well. But I don't know, something about it just doesn't feel quite right with me, but maybe that's just me. So I'm left with just 2 souls, the Cyan Soul and the Orange Soul, which currently don't have any soul transformations at all, instead being represented by the blue and orange attacks in Undertale, where you patiently wait through the blue attacks and bravely go head-on against the orange attacks, as you may know. With this, I think I'll come up with just one main gimmick, instead of a gimmick and an ability, for both the Cyan and Orange Souls, that try to fit with patience for Cyan and bravery for Orange. So let's start with the Cyan Soul, which represents patience. As I mentioned, I have a lot of freedom to come up with a gimmick, since there isn't a real interpretation for it yet. Much like the Blue Soul, the Cyan Soul has a ton of interpretations, like, for example, limited movement, or a slow down time, which aren't the most interesting concepts in my opinion, but they could be cool if utilized well. I think, however, the most popular gimmick for it is the parry system, which I think is a very compelling idea if used correctly. I think a parry system would be either be only limited to certain attacks or have some sort of cooldown, because if you can parry fairly quickly or you have a ton of iframes, the boss fight would be just too easy and a little lame. I'm also not sure if a parry system is compelling enough for a whole boss fight to be designed around it, because I'm just not too sure about it. I don't know how to say this either, but a parry system is rather fan-gamey, if you know what I mean. Like, I know it's used in fan games, obviously, but I don't know, it like almost seems like too like fan-made. I don't know, it might be just me. I also think I can't think of a good Cyan gimmick myself, so I'm probably gonna stick with this one. And I think, though, I just want to make a side note here, but I think the Green Souls concept and its main gimmick is more fitting with patience, because you patiently wait to block the attacks, instead of, like, I don't know, like, kindly block the attacks, maybe. So, yeah, that's just my 2 cents there. Much like the Cyan Soul, the Orange Soul also doesn't have the soul transformation as of now. The Orange Soul currently, well, it does represent bravery in Undertale, which is why you move head-on into attacks without backing down, and you don't take damage for doing that. The Orange Soul has had some interpretations, definitely less than the Cyan Soul. One I've seen is, like, you can't stop moving, but again, like, it's like limited movement, where it's a little, like, not that interesting enough for a whole boss fight. Now, for the Orange Soul, you might have already seen this ability in, like, other soul modes, like, given to them, but I think it fits best in, like the Orange Soul. I think a dash would be great for the Orange Soul. Something similar to, like, Undertale Yellow's dash, where you can move through certain attacks as well, like dodge them. I think a dash fits the theme really well of the Orange Soul. As, like, bravery, you kind of bravely dash into the attack with a reckless abandon, or, like, dash away bravely. A dash is also very easy to pick up. Like, it's such a simple thing that a lot of people understand. And I think it can be still make a hard boss fight around it, with, like, you having to dodge obstacles very quickly within different patterns. So yeah, I think that'd be very, very cool. I think a dash, like, should be utilized as one of the soul gimmicks, because I feel like if it's not, like, it's a little, like, a missed opportunity, you know? I do think there is another option for the Orange and Cyan Souls, though. Because what if they were combined into one soul transformation together? As I mentioned before, Cyan and Orange were represented by blue and orange attacks of Undertale, where you patiently wait to go through the blue attack, and bravely go through the orange attack. However, what if this transformation, we brought back those orange and blue attacks? Especially with there being, like, 7 chapters, I think that Chapter 7 Secret Boss might want to ignore the soul transformation to just focus on the raw red soul. I know Jevil already did that, but I think it's still possible in Chapter 7. So if we merge these 2 souls into one, we can make it, like, a power, like, into, like, some gimmick in a bullet hell game. You know, where you, like, swap different colors to dodge the matching colored attacks. So, like, you'd switch to orange to dodge the orange attacks and blue to dodge the blue attacks. Like quickly between 2 bullets. Like, say an orange and a blue, and it's kind of quickly, you have to quickly swap between the 2. I think this ability is pretty simple to understand, and it fits the criteria of orange and blue. We don't have much about them, obviously. And I think this could be picked up really easily by a new player, and make compelling boss patterns, obviously. Of course, I still came up with the original 2 concepts for Cyan and Orange. Sorry, I said orange and blue, I meant Cyan and Orange. But I just wanted to come up with, like, a fun one, for, like, what if they combined it to 2, you know? Thanks for watching this video, by the way. Sorry there wasn't a video last week, because I could have worked for a bit, but I appreciate all the support recently, and strive to keep it up. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.